Is the director, president, and CEO of the Wilson Center. She was also a former congresswoman from California. Thanks for joining us, Jane.
Thank you, Allie.
Joining us now is the #2 Democrat in the House Majority Whip Steny Hoyer of the state of Maryland. First, we have to start with this breaking news. Pentagon confirming they detected a ballistic missile from North Korea. Your reaction, sir?
Well, I think it makes more dramatic and more important that we act soon. We just passed a very substantial sanctions bill. I agree with Jane Harman, the previous guest you had. Clearly, it's much more difficult with North Korea. But I think it's going to be also more compelling for China, for Russia, Japan, South Korea, and the entire Asian Pacific region to join together to put as much possible pressure on North Korea to reverse its path. If it doesn't, I think it's a very, very dangerous future that we look forward to.
Congressman, we're going to at least that's a little more bipartisan than the issue that we've just come out of. Earlier we talked to Tom Cole, your representative from Oklahoma, Republican representative from Oklahoma. Let me just play a little of what he said about the next steps in health care. Okay, I'll just tell you what he said. He said, now it's really up to Democrats to come forward and say, these are the places we can work together and fix it. He's talking about health care. I'm open to that. I'm happy to do that. But I think they'll find it's a pretty hard system to fix. What's your reaction to that? Because that's a line that started on the Senate floor last night with Mitch McConnell, where he said, all right, now it's up to you. You tell us how you're going to fix it.
Well, I think that's disingenuous. We've told them how we're going to fix it. We adopted the Affordable Care Act. We think it's been succeeding. We think people with pre-existing conditions now get insurance. We think 20 million people who didn't have insurance get insurance. We think that preventive care is now covered. And I could mention a lot of other aspects that we think have been very successful. Are there problems? We have said from the beginning that there are things in the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, that need to be addressed. And it seems to me that's the starting point. That's what's in law. They said they were going to repeal it. They said they were going to replace it. They have not been able to replace it. And the reason they haven't been able to replace it is because so many of their members understand that the Affordable Care Act is working in many respects and therefore don't want to see jettison, for instance, Medicaid expansion. Republican governors throughout the country thought that would be very, very harmful to their people. So I think it's disingenuous to say, okay, Democrats, we've failed to do something, and now it's your turn. Well, the fact is, what Mitch McConnell said was, as you recall, look, if this doesn't pass, we will have to work with Democrats. Right. Well, I'm sorry that he thinks he has to work with Democrats. We're open to working with our Republican colleagues. Certainly, I'm open to working with Tom Cole, who's a good friend of mine, and we can move forward. And there are things that need to be fixed. The small market is not working as well as it should. There are counties that don't have coverage. We need to make sure that middle-class taxpayers are not driven out of the market because of cost.
Sir,
we can
would
do
you
that.
fix it? Assuming the baton is passed to you, what is the first fix or improvement Democrats would put forward? Well,
first of all, we want to make sure that the CRS payments, the payments to insurance companies for people who can't afford deductibles and copays would be made, and they would be permanent, be funded, and would be stable. That would stabilize the market. The reason Blue Cross Blue Shield has had a substantial increase in the state of Maryland, they said half of the increase is related to the uncertainty that has been created by the Trump administration in terms of the mandate, having everybody included in the insurance process, and also by the payments to the insurance companies to amortize their costs. So those are certainly two of the places where we would start. But we'll also start with talking to the Republicans about some of the they have talked about in terms of health savings account, competition across state lines. We understand they're in charge, not us. They're in charge. And frankly, had we won the election in 2010, which we didn't, we got badly beaten, as everybody recalls. Our expectation was that we were going to fix those things that were not perfect in the bill that was passed in 2010 and signed into law. So we're ready to work with them, and we're ready to work across the board on the issues that they identify. But we're not prepared to kill the ACA, which we think is working. They're wrong in saying that it's imploding. It is not imploding. And it is working in almost every area of the country. There are some areas that it's not, and we need to work on those areas.
Congressman, good to talk to you. Thank you so much for being with us. Representative Steny Hoyer of Maryland is the Democratic whip in the Congress.